In this tutorial, we will look at the main features of Session View. In Session View, clips are laid out in vertical columns called tracks. Only one clip can be played on each track at any one time, and if a new clip is triggered on the same track, then the previous one will stop. First of all, let's set up the number of tracks that we want to use. For this tutorial, I'm not going to be using the MIDI track, so let's get rid of it by clicking the track's title, then right-click and select Delete. I want to use 4 audio tracks, so I need to add more in. Additional tracks can be created by going to the Create menu and then selecting Insert Audio Track. You can also use the keyboard shortcut for this, which is Ctrl-T or Command-T on the Mac. It's useful to rename the tracks to something more meaningful. So to do this, click on the title bar and either right-click and select Rename, or press Ctrl-R or Command-R on the Mac. I'm going to rename my tracks Drums, Bass, Lead, Vocals. I'm also going to resize each track so that they fill the screen better. The triangular button on the top left opens the browser, which is where you can find clips, effects and instruments to use within Live. We look at the browser in more detail in its own tutorial. Let's find some audio samples to play with. To do that, I will click on the 4th icon down, which is the file browser, and then navigate to the download folder for Ableton DJ Course, and then Audio Files. If you need to go up in the file browser, you can do this by double-clicking on the up arrow at the top. Popular destinations such as My Documents or Desktop are also easily available by clicking on the black triangle here. I'm now going to drag in the file drum loop and put it on the drums track. Next, I want the files bassline 1 to 4, which I can highlight and drag all at the same time by selecting the top file, pressing the Shift key, and then selecting the bottom file. These can now all be dragged together onto the bass track. I'll also add in the files lead 1 to 4 onto the lead track and the sample Vox onto the vocal track. If you double click on an audio clip, the sample display will open up to show you the properties that you can adjust. For now though, we'll leave those alone because we look at those settings in detail in the section Clip View and Audio Clips. Now that I have some clips to use, there are a number of different ways you can trigger them to start playing. You can click on the triangular button with your mouse, or you can trigger them by highlighting the clip and then pressing Enter or Return on your keyboard. In addition to this, clips can be triggered by assigning them to either a key on the computer keyboard using Key Map mode, or to an external MIDI controller or keyboard by using MIDI map mode. This is fully explained in the tutorial Hands-on Control. Any empty clips on a track have stop buttons on them, and these can be used to stop any clip playing on that vertical track. If all of the slots on a certain track are full of clips, then there is a global stop button at the bottom which can be used at any time to stop that track playing. To the far right of these there is a button marked Stop Clips, which will stop all the tracks playing at once. The horizontal rows across the screen are called scenes. All of the clips in a scene can be triggered by pressing the Scene Launch button on the right side of the screen. Scenes offer an easy and effective way of grouping clips that need to be played together. You can see that as I've been triggering these scenes, the drum loop on track 1 has been stopped by the stop button on its track. Now it'd be useful if the drum loop kept playing whilst I triggered scenes 2, 3 and 4. To solve this, you can remove the stop button in these slots on the drums track. Do this by right-clicking and selecting Remove Stop Button, or by pressing Ctrl or Command E. Now the drum loop will keep playing as I trigger each of these scenes. A really handy way to use scenes is by pressing the Enter key on your keyboard to click down through the list of scenes. Make sure that Select Next Scene on launch is selected in the right-click menu, and then you can click through each scene in order. This can be left on by default in Preferences on the Record Warp Launch tab. To add in extra scenes, click whereabouts on the screen you want the scene, and then go to Create, Insert Scene, or use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl or Command I. However, I don't need to use those extra scenes right now, so I'm going to delete them by clicking on them and then pressing the Delete key on my keyboard. Scenes can be renamed by using the right-click menu, or by using Ctrl or Command R. I'm going to rename my first two scenes Section A and Section B. You can also use the scene names to make tempo changes to live. At the moment, the clips have been playing back at the project tempo, which is up here, and is currently set to 130 beats per minute. If I rename the third scene to 125 BPM, then when I launch that scene, the tempo will change as well. When you start the set, you may notice that the set starts instantly. However, whenever you trigger other clips or press stop, then the clips flash before anything happens. This is because of the global quantise setting at the top of the screen here. By default, this is normally set to 1 bar, which is a good setting to use for most situations. This means that whenever a clip is triggered, it will wait until the start of the next bar before it plays. Global quantise can be varied from up to 8 bars or down to 1/32 of a bar. It is an integral function of live and ensures that all the clips stay in time and in sync with each other. Be careful of using a low global quantise setting. The lower the setting is, the harder it is to keep everything playing in sync together. It's easier to leave the global quantise at 1 bar and simply lower the quantise setting of individual clips on the launch menu of the audio clip if you need to. We talk more about quantization in the section on launching clips and follow actions. If you right-click on a clip, then you will see that a menu comes up with a wide range of useful functions. You can cut, copy, duplicate and paste, in much the same way as you would with any other program. For example, let's copy the 4 baseline clips and then paste them lower down the screen. The keyboard shortcuts for these functions are the same as for other programs. Ctrl or Command X, C and V for cut, copy and paste, and Ctrl or Command D for duplicate. Another easy way to copy clips is to hold the Control key and drag, or the Option key on the Mac. This function can also be used with multiple clips. There are a number of other options that come up when you right-click, and these include Rename, which is useful to give each clip a helpful name, and Deactivate Clip, which is used when you want to stop a clip playing, but you don't necessarily want to delete it. So far, we have only been using audio clips. However, Live also provides extensive functions for using MIDI to write your own drum and instrument parts. This is covered thoroughly in the tutorial on MIDI. It's important to mention at this point, though, that audio clips can't be put on MIDI tracks and vice versa. You might have noticed by now that if you stop the set playing and then restart it, whichever clips had been playing before will all start again. This can be useful. However, there will be times when you don't want all the same clips to come in again. You can see which clips will restart because they all have their play button still highlighted. To stop them fully, press the Stop Clips button and you can see that the light will go off. Now, when you restart the set, you know they won't start until you trigger them again. Finally, to finish off this section, we'll have a couple of helpful tips. A useful keyboard shortcut to learn when using Live is the spacebar. This will start and stop the set instantly. However, it's worth mentioning that you do need to be careful with this. If you accidentally hit the spacebar while playing your set, the music will come to a sudden and premature stop. Do be careful with this. Another handy thing to get into the habit of using is being able to go in and out of full screen mode. This can be done by going to the View menu and selecting Full Screen. This mode significantly increases screen space by removing all toolbars and menus. If you want to exit full screen mode, click on the yellow arrow in the very bottom right-hand corner of the screen. On the PC, the keyboard shortcut for this is F11, and on the Mac, it's Ctrl F11. Again, this is a very useful shortcut to memorise. This is the end of the section on Session View.